Okay, so question number one is, what was slavery in the United States like, and what do you imagine, and when you imagine what it would be like to be a slave in the United States? Slavery was mainly being part of the agriculture part in the deep south. So I would imagine you living in a shack, picking cotton like all day. That's like all would you do the entire time. It's just you'd pick cotton, would eat and sleep and just repeat it over and over again. There would be no like breaks from it. It's always constant. You're forced to, and if you didn't, you'd be punished with whippings or any punishments like that. How did you learn about American slavery? I learned American slavery during school, probably middle school when I learned American history, and it was basically like that. Like it was brutal. They weren't treated fairly. They were discriminated for the color of their skin. Um, if any slave rebellions that you learned about before, I think the Turner Rebellion because it was like the only one of the most well known and one of the most successful, I should say, because he managed to go on a rampage and really broke world, kind of shook the world about it. How did the production of cotton transform? Slaves fueled the slavery, especially with the cotton gin, because cotton wasn't really produced until the cotton gin showed up, and then they needed people to pick the cotton to put it into machines. So slaves were perfect for that because they could do that all day, was just pick cotton, throw in the machines to make clean cotton, and then became like a real successor for the South, and that's how they made a lot of money for it. How is the North, even so those people deeply involved in perpetuating slavery? Um, Mainly because they were still discriminated against. They still kind of lived lower livelihoods. Even though some people were like abolitionists at the time, it mainly had to do with the Slavery Act of 1860, which was an act that allowed police and anyone from the southern states to go up to the north and claim any runaway slaves and take them back to the south without cause. They can just show up and take anyone that resembles like a slave that ran away and take them back to the south and become slaves. So that basically allowed slavery to still continue because anyone can go up from the southern states into the north and just take any colored person and take them back down. How many people were enslaved in the U.S.? There were before the Civil War. There were 40 or not 40, 4 million slaves all around. Was the U.S. the only slave society to have a natural increase of slaves? Yes, it was because slave owners forced the slaves to have kids either by means of forcing partners against each other or even raping female slaves so they can have more children, so they can have more slaves instead of buying for slaves. Instead of buying slaves, you can just raise child slaves and then have them grown up and be slave, have more slaves. Um, I did not know about the gay revolution because I think it was because it never fully happened. But I did know about the Nat Turner Revolution or the revolt. Mainly not about the gay because it never really happened. It was about to happen, but then two slaves kind of spilled the beans on one of the slave owners, causing everyone to be sentenced to death. Well, the Nate Turner was actually there were killings and all that until they were ultimately stopped. I did learn about him during the school because mainly people are like, how can the slaves didn't fight back? When in reality they did, but the ones that were successful and the ones that weren't successful, they were deeply punished for it. So I think that really stopped from slaves rebelling. So it mostly caused them to run away. Like with Underground Railroad, there was like no expansive like civil war with the slaves, or mainly running away through be the Underground Railroad or like other people like Harriet Tubman and all that. Um, no, I still think slavery was a horrible thing in American history for everyone, and it's still kind of conscious because it wasn't really that long. It was like 150 years ago, which is really not that long if you really put that into mind. That was like 3 generations ago, about 3 generations. That's really it.